What if Aragorn's coronation was not a reward, but the price of everything he'd become? While the world still cheers his happy ending, Tolkien's private notes and the most rigorous scholarship reveal a deeper, more challenging truth. Aragorn's crown wasn't a victory prize. It was the beginning of his greatest test, a burden so heavy that most would falter under its weight. Almost everything you've been told about Aragorn's destiny is only half the story. Hidden in Tolkien's letters and the work of leading scholars are revelations that upend what we think we know about kingship, suffering, and the long defeat that runs through Middle-earth like a golden thread. This is not the tale you expect. What waits at the end of Aragorn's journey isn't a fairy tale reward, but a reckoning with the costs of true leadership, and a secret Tolkien wove into the very bones of his legendarium. So if you've ever looked for meaning beneath the myth, come with me. By the end, you'll hold the secret Tolkien hid for those who truly listen. Welcome to Middle-earth Unveiled. Here, we honor Tolkien's timeless tales with curiosity, reverence, and a touch of wonder. If these stories have shaped your imagination, subscribing is the best way to help our fellowship grow and keep the lore alive for future adventurers. Let's journey on. Let's be honest, Aragorn's story isn't your classic fairy tale beginning. There's no throne or triumph at the start. Instead, there's a curse, a shadow that stretches back 3,000 years. It all goes back to Isildur, who claimed the One Ring at Mount Doom. That single choice sent his family and his kingdom spiraling into ruin. The North, Arnor, fell to war and sickness, and the proud Dunedain. They faded into legends, wandering the wilds, protecting people who barely remembered their names. For centuries, these rangers gave up comfort and glory for a mission that almost everyone had forgotten. To keep him safe, Aragorn, the last of Isildur's line, grew up in Rivendell. No royal title, no fanfare, just a boy named Estelle, which means hope in Sindarin. Here's the wild part. His true identity was such a well-kept secret that even Aragorn himself didn't learn it until he was 20. Imagine finding out you're the heir to a lost kingdom after a whole childhood spent learning humility, not power. So what happens when someone forged in loss and secrecy suddenly gets called into the light? That's where things really get interesting. Aragorn leaves Rivendell's safety and steps out into Bree, a muddy, rain-soaked town where nobody sees a king. They call him Strider, a rough-looking wanderer. Picture him under a grey sky, firelight glinting off a sword that's still in pieces. He's moving through the world like a ghost, the future king of Gondor, completely invisible to the people around him. Remember Butterbur, the innkeeper? He sized Aragorn up and said, "That ranger is dangerous folk, wandering the wilds." Not exactly a royal welcome, is it? But here's the thing. Those forgotten years in the shadows were everything. They weren't a mistake. They were the reason Aragorn became the king Middle-earth needed. While other leaders were learning politics in palaces, he was learning resilience in the wild. He learned from hardship, hunger, and the honesty of people who never dreamed they were talking to a king. Tolkien scholar Verlin Flieger, in the book Splintered Light, put it beautifully. Light and language are the means by which Tolkien creates and reveals meaning. Every hard-earned step Aragorn took was like writing another line in a poem of hope, a small light flickering in the dark. And really, that's the question at the heart of all this. After years spent wandering in shadow, what kind of light could Aragorn bring to a world desperate for hope? When Elrond finally revealed Aragorn's identity, pride did not flood him, only dread. He was handed the shards of Narsil, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of failure stretching back through the centuries. That very year, Deep in the twilit woods of Rivendell, Aragorn beheld Arwen Undomiel, a moment that bound him to love and loss for decades to come. His heart was set on a road of patience and uncertainty that would mirror the secret, slow work of renewal itself. Soon after, Aragorn joined forces with Gandalf, who saw what others missed: the value of humility, the necessity of learning through hardship. For the next 6 decades, Aragorn wandered farther than any king before him, across Rohan's golden plains, through Gondor's marble halls, into the burning deserts of Harad, and even the shadowed lands of distant Rhûn. Every hardship was a lesson, every night beneath alien stars, another chapter in his education. The wilderness was his teacher, suffering his syllabus. Picture the silence of a starlit camp, the crackle of firewood, the taste of travel-worn bread, and the ache of old wounds beneath the surface. Aragorn learned the cost of stewardship in the wild, not on a throne. Few realize that as Thorongil, Aragorn led Gondor's navy in a midnight raid against the black ships of Umbar, striking a crucial blow for the South Kingdom. But at the moment of triumph, he vanished from the city like morning mist, leaving only rumors. His glory surrendered for the safety of his true identity. Why? Because the lesson of exile is this: the greatest victories are those no one ever sees. Tolkien deliberately patterned Aragorn after legendary exiled kings: Arthur drawing the sword from the stone, Sigurd reclaiming his father's throne, and even Christ in those hidden years of preparation before his ministry began. Tolkien remade myth, fusing Christian and pagan, ancient and modern, into a living narrative that speaks to the deepest patterns of human experience, wrote Jane Chance in Tolkien and the Invention of Myth, page 89. Aragorn's wandering is both a literary echo and an emotional pilgrimage toward readiness. The loneliness, patience, and trauma of Aragorn's exile mirrors Tolkien's own experience in the blood-soaked trenches of World War I, watching friends fall like autumn leaves, learning endurance through unimaginable hardship. By 1918, all but one of my close friends were dead, Tolkien wrote, carrying the wisdom of loss into every page he would ever write. But here's the crucial insight. Just as Tolkien's wounds became seeds for his stories, so did Aragorn's scars become the secret roots of his future rule. Catherine McIlwain, in the book Tolkien, Maker of Middle-earth, reminds us that Tolkien's imagined world was as real to him as to his readers. His maps and drawings are not mere embellishments, but windows into a world as real as our own. What happens, we now wonder, when a man shaped by such deliberate hardship finally returns to claim his place? Consider Denethor, steward of Gondor, born to power, trained in splendor, raised in the marble halls of Minas Tirith, and yet completely isolated from those he governed. In his final madness, Denethor cried, "No tomb for Denethor and Faramir, no long slow sleep of death embalmed. We will burn like the heathen kings of old." While Denethor sought flames, Aragorn brought healing. While one clutched power like a drowning man, the other opened his hands in service. Denethor gazed into the Palantir and saw only doom, his mind breaking beneath knowledge without hope, wisdom without mercy. Tolkien called this the despair of the heart that is cut off from hope. Where Denethor turned inward and fell, Aragorn, faced with the same darkness, stepped forward into the unknown. This crossing, the journey into shadow and back again, marks the true king. This pattern echoes throughout Tolkien's work. Where Feanor's pride shatters the peace of Valinor, Aragorn's humility gathers the scattered kingdoms. Where Turin Turambar wanders in rage and despair, Aragorn wanders in hope and patient endurance. Even Galadriel, greatest among the wise, earns her final peace not by grasping the ring's power, but by refusing it entirely. As Bradley Beerzer explains, Tolkien believed in the sanctity of the ordinary, and thus his greatest heroes are those who serve rather than command. But all of these failures and refusals only sharpen the question: what makes Aragorn different? What is the real secret of his strength? All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. Bilbo's poem is both prophecy and challenge, a clue to the heart of Aragorn's true power. In Bree's smoky common room, Aragorn watches the hobbits from the shadows, gauging their courage with hunter's eyes. At Weathertop's Crown, he stands alone against 5 Nazgul, defending those who barely trust him. Later, on the paths of the dead, he dares what no living soul would dare, compelling an army of oath-breaking ghosts to their final justice. But these feats are not random acts of heroism. They're the carefully cultivated fruit of decades spent listening, observing, blending seamlessly with every folk of Middle-earth. His anonymity was not disguise, but apprenticeship, learning the honest worries of farmers, the ancient songs of the old, the daily struggles of traders and travelers. He mastered both practical and symbolic skills, tracking game through pathless woods, healing with athelers, reading weather in cloud and wind, speaking the tongues of many peoples. Each skill became a key to find what is hidden, to bridge ancient divisions, to heal wounds thought permanent, to see what others cannot. Picture Aragorn's hands, calloused by sword and bow, stained with earth and healing herbs. In the houses of healing, these same hands restore Éowyn, Faramir and Merry to life, fulfilling the old rhyme: the hands of the king are the hands of a healer. Craig Bernthal writes in the book Tolkien's Sacramental Vision, the characters who heal, who give, who serve without thought of reward, are those closest to the holy in Middle-earth. What did this long preparation look like when finally put to the test of the crown? Here is the quiet, subversive center of Aragorn's story, the truth that glimmers beneath the myth and transforms it. Aragorn did not receive a reward. Rather, he inherited the precise responsibility shaped by the long apprenticeship of his suffering, his hope, his humility. If reward is understood as ease after effort, Aragorn's prize is revealed as something far rarer, a summons to service exquisitely attuned to what only he could offer. The appendices, those margins of Tolkien's epic, where the deeper stories often reside, whisper what the films omit. King Alessa, the long-awaited restorer, does not simply claim a throne. He knits together the severed kingdoms of Arna and Gondor. He frees the forgotten captives of the south. He invites peace where blood feuds festered, and plants anew the white tree, the living memory of hope restored in the battered heart of Minas Tirith. Yet, how easy it is to mistake the crown for the story's center. In truth, the symbol is subordinate to the service. Aragorn's crown is not wrought in ornate gold, but forged as a war helm, a weathered artifact of endurance, not ornament, not dominion. Jane Chance, in her meditation on Tolkien, observes how he fused Christian and pagan, ancient and modern, into a living narrative that speaks to the deepest human longings. The king who returns is not only the figure of destiny, but the perennial outsider, the healer, the one who, having held power lightly, knows how to relinquish it with grace. The story's true revelation is as gentle as it is radical. Aragorn's greatest act is not conquest, but surrender. His gift is to embrace mortality, the gift of men, not as defeat, but as a final offering. In Tolkien's telling, death is not a darkness, but an opening, not loss, but an expansion into something more than memory. In his last words to Arwen, we do not find grandiosity, but a benediction spoken from the boundary of worlds. In sorrow we must go, but not in despair. Behold, we are not bound forever to the circles of the world, and beyond them is more than memory. Craig Bernthal reminds us, the characters who heal, who give, who serve without thought of reward, are those closest to the holy in Middle-earth. This is Aragorn's final instruction. Even in death, he remains a guide, showing us that every crown, however hard won, must eventually be set down. That real kingship, real greatness, lies not in the fierce grip on power, but in the wisdom and generosity to release it. This, perhaps, is the secret Tolkien placed in the heart of his legendarium, the meaning of what he called the long defeat. Not a record of failures, but the patient, hopeful work of those who serve without the certainty of reward. Those who plant trees, content never to sit beneath their shade, and in so doing, offer us the clearest vision of hope the world can know. So what does Aragorn's true story mean for us, here and now, in our own age of uncertainty? In an era of strongmen and celebrity leaders, Aragorn's example cuts like a blade through our cultural assumptions about power. Tolkien, who witnessed 2 world wars and the rise of totalitarian regimes, knew that the most dangerous temptation is power itself. The most improper job of any man is bossing other men. Who would you follow into unknown territory? The leader who demands loyalty through fear, or the one who earns it through decades of faithful service? The one who claims greatness with loud words, or the one who demonstrates it through quiet sacrifice? Our own kingdoms, our families, communities, and nations face their own gathering darkness. What we desperately need are not just rulers, but rangers, not just managers, but healers. People willing to learn wisdom in the wilderness before they attempt to lead in the spotlight. Ralph C. Wood writes in his book, Gospel According to Tolkien, Tolkien's moral vision is always a call to humility, sacrifice, and hope against hope in the face of overwhelming odds. In Aragorn's story, every reader can find their own echo. The hope that outlasts failure, the courage to serve without recognition, and the wisdom to let go when the time comes. The secret Tolkien embedded in Aragorn's story is this: true authority comes not from position, but from preparation, not from demanding service, but from giving it first. The crown is not a prize to be won, but a burden to be carried, not an ending, but a beginning. When you face your own crossroads, those moments when you must choose between comfort and calling, between the easy path and the right one, remember Aragorn. His light was forged in exile. His hope was born in apparent defeat. His strength was built through years of patient service that no one saw or celebrated. The true king is the one who serves. The only legacy that endures is what we freely give away, not what we desperately claim for ourselves. As the Silmarillion reminds us, even the greatest realms of Middle-earth fade and are changed, and the years devour them, and the generations of men that follow are not as the generations that were of old. That is what Aragorn understood. That is what he deserved. And that is what makes his story not just inspiring, but essential for every age.